Our today's topic is Swan Diagram. In 1950s and 1960s, the literature was concerned how a country's government or economic body can achieve both internal and external balance at the same time. For this concern, the idea of Swan Diagram is invented by Trevor Swan, which is known as Swan Diagram. Before we talk about Swan Diagram and equilibrium in internal and external balance, we have to know about internal and external balance schedule. The IB schedule shows the relationship between real exchange rate and real domestic absorption for which economy in full employment and stable level of prices. As you can see, the IB schedule is downward. But why? Because IB schedule is downward sloping, any appreciation will reduce export and increase import. Therefore, to maintain full employment, it is necessary to increase in domestic expenditure. Also, you can see on the diagram that in the left side IB schedule there is a deflationary pressure, and in the right side there is a inflationary pressure, because for a given exchange rate in the right side there is a greater domestic expenditure than required to maintain full employment. Also in the left side there is the expenditure is lesser to maintain in full employment. Also, EB schedule shows the relationship between real exchange rate and real domestic absorption for which economy in external balance, that basically shows balance in current account. EB schedule is an upward sloping curve because any kind of depreciation of exchange rate will increase export and decrease import to prevent current account surplus. In the right side of EB schedule, there is a deficit. In the left side of the EB schedule, there is a surplus, because in the right side, domestic expenditure is greater than is required to maintain current account equilibrium, so result in a deficit. Also in the left side, domestic expenditure is lesser, so there is a current account surplus. When we combine both the graph in one frame, we get Swan diagram. As you can see, Swan diagram divides the economy into four zones: Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, and Zone 4. In Zone 1, a deficit and inflationary pressure. In Zone 2, a deficit and deflationary pressure. In Zone 3, there is surplus and deflationary pressure. In Zone 4, we have surplus and inflationary pressure. The economy is in both internal and external balance at point A. Suppose for some reasons the economy is at point B, the authority may diminish current account deficit by reducing domestic spending to move towards point C. But consequently, the economy falls into recession with resulting unemployment. Alternatively, the authority may devalue the exchange rate to move towards point D. This action may reduce current account deficit at the expense of inflationary pressure. To move from point B to point A, which is our equilibrium point, the authority needs to deflate the economy and undertake a devaluation by appropriate amount. It follows divergence rules of having as many instruments as number of targets. We will see divergence rule in upcoming slides. After gaining the knowledge about Swan diagram, we will proceed to assignment problem. Assignment problem basically shows the problem of choosing right instrument for right goal. As the Timbergen instrument goals rule, government needs two instruments to achieve both internal and external balance. It does not tell us which instrument should be assigned to which target. Mandel suggests that policies should be paired with the objective on which they have the most influence. The problem for economic policymakers to determine which instruments to assign to which target is termed the assignment problem. Mandel suggests that under fixed exchange rate, monetary policy should be assigned to external balance and fiscal policy to internal balance. Before we move into the diagrammatic approach of internal balance schedule and external balance schedule and assignment problem, We have to clear certain terms, which is external balance and internal balance schedules, any slopes, and income effect and interest rate effect. The internal balance schedule has a negative slope since a contractionary fiscal policy has to be accompanied by an expansionary fiscal policy to maintain full employment. The external balance schedule may have a positive or negative slope because an expansionary fiscal policy has two conflicting effects on BOPs. Income effect: increase in income deteriorates current account, worsening the BOPs. An interest rate effect is rise in interest rate leads to inflow of capital, which improves the BOPs. In this diagrammatic approach of assignment problem, first we will clear up certain terms and then we will go on to process, which is stable and convergent process and unstable and divergent process. First, as you can see, the EB schedule with a negative slope means that expansionary fiscal policy causes a net deterioration in the BOPs, which basically shows income effect dominates the interest rate effect. When fiscal policy is expansionary and monetary policy has to be contractionary, raising domestic interest rate increases capital inflows to ensure equilibrium in BOPs. The IB schedule is steeper than EP schedule, is a monetary policy relatively more effective in influencing EB, and fiscal policy is relatively more effective in respect to IB. In this graph, we see two processes. One is stable and convergent process and another is unstable and divergent process. At point A, with the internal balance but BOP deficit, a contractionary monetary policy moves the economy to point B on the EB curve, leading to unemployment, which is then tackled by an expansionary fiscal policy moving to point C on the IB schedule. This pushes the economy back into deficit, followed by monetary contraction to achieve external balance. The process is stable and convergent. And if policymakers use fiscal policy to eradicate BOP deficit and monetary policy to internal balance, the economy moves to point A to point D. The external balance is achieved but the cost of high unemployment. If the authority then use an expansionary monetary policy to achieve internal balance, the economy moves to point D to point E. The process is called unstable and divergent. Thank you for listening to me till now. I hope that you are now clear about Swan diagram and its related topic, assignment problem. Thank you.